What's up, everybody? This week I'm joined by Paddy as we take a look at an album that was rated as high and as low as you could get by the music press. Blur's The Great Escape. That and a whole lot more is to come on this week's episode of the 90s Podcast. Welcome to the show. Alright, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the 90s Podcast right here on the Because of the Network. Hope you're doing well today. And I'm joined by a guy who I haven't spoken to in a long time, but it's good to get him back on. Good to get him on here, period. Patrick Olga. Paddy, how you doing, man?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good, man. We have spoken about this before, like back in the day. Now, for people who don't know, I went to school with Paddy. We've played music together, we played football together. You know, we've known each other for nearly 30 years. And he was on the side of Blur during the Blur Oasis kind of incidents that happened in the 90s, best way through it. So who better to have on to talk about Blur's fourth album, The Great Escape? That's what we're going to be talking about today. But first, how you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm good. Fine, good. It's nice weather over here. It's about, I don't know, late teens, early 20s, so summer's starting to creep through now, and we've had a string of sunny weather over here, so yeah, I'm good. Yeah, bit of a red face here. I've been out in the sun this evening, so
nice. And see, we're hitting 100 degrees Fahrenheit over here.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I'm recording this in May. We're not going to be releasing this for a little while, but I'm recording this in May, so it's 100 degrees. So it's yeah, I know it's pretty bad. So we've talked about this album on and off social media, in person, many times over the years, and this is one of your favorite albums, correct?
Yeah, probably my favorite 90s band. It was, I got it for Christmas. I got it Christmas '95. I think it came out in September, I think.
Yeah.
And then I got it on tape. I've still got it somewhere. I think it's in a box under my bed somewhere, along with a lot of other '90s tape albums that I've got. And yeah, I was a bit young for Parklife, so I kind of got Parklife afterwards. And I'd already heard this before I'd heard Parklife, strangely. So I didn't have that kind of perception of Parklife leading into The Great Escape, because I think we would have been, 11?
10, 11, yeah.
And so you're starting to get into pop music at that time, kind of, you know, you're graduating away from nursery rhymes and into kind of being trendy and in pop music and stuff. And yeah, it was. I remember getting it Christmas Day. I had a little sort of stereo tape machine, really old. You know them like rectangular ones with like a speaker at the top. And yeah, so I had one of them. Sort of plunked it in. Terrible sound on it, but and I just remember the stereotypes firing up, and that was kind of had me hooked a little bit. Obviously, the Country House and Roll With It stuff had happened prior to that, and I was aware of that, and it was all over the news. You couldn't not be aware of it. But this was kind of one of the first big 90s albums I'd heard from start to finish, so I didn't have a lot to compare it to, I guess, at the time.
Well, you know, we've gone through it, and you know, Blur were an interesting band in the 90s. Okay, they had like a huge hit in 91 with There's No Other Way, and then they kind of disappeared for a few years, and then they popped right back up with Girls and Boys. And during that time, they released Modern Life is Rubbish in 1993. I love that album. I think it's a real good album. It's really mature sounding. Couple of dodgy tracks, but it's a Blur album. Blur did have a couple of dodgy tracks in them. All bands have a couple of dodgy tracks in them, but
yeah,
Modern Life is Rubbish. I mean, Sunday was the quintessential English sounding, you know, story of what you do on a Sunday. You know.
Yeah. And
you know,
it was kind of Modern Life was kind of the start of a trio of kind of albums that Alban had written around characters and a kind of depiction of life in Britain during that time. And I think that Modern Life and Parklife were your more urban, young city living reflections. I think when they wrote The Great Escape, they themselves had obviously huge success with Parklife. They were thrust into the spotlight with the Blur Oasis battle, and suddenly they were kind of slowly becoming a suburban band who didn't see each other, didn't live in each other's pockets.
Yeah.
And I think that it was the kind of end of that trio of albums where he'd written just about a million different characters. Every song's about a new character.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing. Modern Life is Rubbish was a critical success, but it didn't do well commercially.
No.
I think it only sold like 50,000 copies or something like that.
Well, they were going to be dropped.
Yeah.
If they hadn't written Parklife and had the success they had with Parklife, if Parklife had gone the way Modern Life had went, they would have been dropped from the record label.
Yeah.
So the pressure was on really for Parklife. Parklife kind of, it was a happier album than Modern Life is Rubbish.
Yes.
Even though it was still kind of a little dig at the characters and the life, and but it was happier. The Girls and Boys was very upbeat and very commercial. Parklife itself, and they bring in Phil Daniels, and obviously he was big from his time on Quadrophenia right through to he did a lot of 90s comedies and stuff like that with Matt Lucas and the like, so he was kind of a big person to bring in at the time. You had Girls and Boys, and then you had a kind of couple of really catchy poppy singles around that, which gave it the commercial success, even though really the tone of the lyrics wasn't a lot different from Modern Life is Rubbish, really.
No, I think that his compositions were a lot more upbeat, a lot more energetic. Because Modern Life is Rubbish is a really, really good album. The lyrics are really, really good, but it does feel a little, I want to say down, but a little slow, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And everything around that, like obviously we go back to when we used to buy albums and pull out the artwork, and the artwork on Modern Life is this kind of old train, and it's very kind of, it is what it is. It's what it says on the tin, which is Modern Life is Rubbish, and it's kind of everything's down and everything's drab. Whereas Parklife, even though it kind of still has a hidden message in there regarding the characters and how kind of, I guess, tragic they are, it's done in an upbeat way and a poppy way enough to give them that commercial success. And I think it was a sign at the time. So Modern Life was what, 93?
93, yeah. And I think what Modern Life was written in 92. So written in 92, recorded in 92, released in 93. At the time, there was still a lot of American grunge coming out.
Yeah.
And American grunge was, I like grunge music. I've learned to appreciate it over the years since I've been over here. Lots of people got me into a lot of different stuff. And one of our frequent contributors, Greg Gregory, he said that there was like a joke going around the grunge scene. It's like they'd say hello to each other along the lines of, "Hey, how you doing? Oh, I hate myself and I want to die."
Yeah.
And people like the guys from Suede, the guys from Pulp, the guys from Oasis, the guys from Blur, they heard that and were like, "Not on my watch." We're not going to tell the kids. We're not going to tell the kids that we're going to release something happier or more grounded.
And then they obviously later on, by 97, was it 97? They released Song 2, which was a Mickey take of the grunge scene. I think they captured a moment in time. I think timing is everything with these kinds of things. You release Parklife now,
no,
and it doesn't catch, and it just caught a time when we were coming out of the 80s, and obviously prior to that, you had the 70s with all the hardship, and then you had the miners' strikes in the 80s, and there was just a sense in the 90s that Britain was actually okay, and obviously Modern Life didn't capture that, but
Parklife did.
We were coming out of this 20-year slumber, and there seemed a little, for the first time in sort of 20 years, there seemed a little bit of hope. And then you release Parklife into that, and it kind of just grabs the nation and takes it with it. You've got to remember, being a smaller country that we are compared to the States, you've got, you can make a big splash as a British band on a national scale, whereas in America you've got so many, you can make a huge splash in a certain genre, but then you've got other genres around that, and it's a much bigger area to cover.
Yeah, that's why there's like 18 different charts over here. Like there's the Billboard 200, and then there's like the modern rock and the alternate rock and the country.
And then country, obviously, country's massive.
Yeah.
Whereas in the UK, they're fighting for space, and I think that the bands that have come just before Blur, well, not just before Blur, because obviously Blur were around since the late 80s, but the likes of Suede, and they kind of just paved the way, and I think the country was just crying out for an album that was kind of self-reflective of us as a nation. Songs like Bank Holiday, and how we talk about how we do what we do on bank holidays, where we just kind of go and get wrecked and then go back to work with a hangover and stuff like that. And it just captured British life and kind of showed us a mirror to it, basically. And but in a way that was, that we could be proud of. And then obviously you get Oasis come along, and we managed to recapture the Union flag as a symbol of positivity.
Yeah.
Which it never was before, and it isn't now.
No.
So, but for that brief period, we managed, through the bands like Oasis and Blur, we managed to make you feel proud to be British. Although I don't consider myself necessarily to be British. It had that positivity about it.
Oh, see, that was the thing, right? But these albums were quintessentially, I don't want to say British, they were quintessentially English, right? And Southern,
that's right.
Southern English, definitely.
That's a better way of putting it. Yeah.
And they really, Modern Life came out and they were told you got to release a big album. So you'd think they'd go away and Park Life would have been this kind of what the Blur album became, right? This whole complete shift of focus and everything like that. But they doubled down, wrote more Englishy stuff, even more Englishly stuff. I mean, the one of my favorite Blur songs is about the ship in forecast.
There's
nothing more quintessentially British than the ship in forecast.
Yeah,
and it's just an epic song. 4. And the only problem I have with Park Life, and I mentioned this on the Park Life episode that we did a few years ago. This Is a Law should have been the end of the album.
Yes,
Lot 105, nice little ditty instrumental. Maybe should have started the album or bury it somewhere in the middle in that period where you've got that instrumental and you got Alex James's song about the stars. I can't remember what it's called. Far Out.
Yeah.
And, you bury it there and then you end on This Is a Low because it's an epic come down. Girls and Boys is the best way to start it. This Is a Low is the best way to end it.
I agree.
You run the emotions. And so Park Life ticks off. Kurt Cobain dies. And then in Britain, at least, all the focus went on the British music. Because I think a lot of British music fans were waiting on Stone Roses to come back.
Yeah, they obviously had that hiatus. I watched that Blood on the Tracks, actually, the other day. I'd seen it before, but I watched it again, and it could have been so different had they not had those legal issues. But yeah, everybody was the Roses had kind of captured that, in a sense, but then they'd gone away. And like you said, they're all waiting for them to come back, and into this void steps Blur.
Yeah. And then the rest is history.
And the rest is history, yeah. And the Roses are always of what might have been banned.
Yeah.
Whereas Blur were what was. And they just timed it perfectly. 1994 into 95 with The Great Escape. And I think it was ready for something like Park Life to come along.
So we move on to 95. Blur sweep the Brit Awards. They win Best Band, Best Album, and I think Best Video.
They took 4 that year. Now,
4
I don't
that
know what
year.
The other one is. Best single.
Best single for it was either Girls and Boys or Park Life. I can't remember which one off the top of my head.
Yeah, it'll be Park Life, I think. I think that's why Oasis mocked it the following year.
Yeah. And, they dedicated the Best Band Award to Oasis. And they thought that was an insult because, you're either the best or you're not the best, I guess was their attitude. And that kind of sparked their rivalry a little bit.
Yeah.
And, it's hard to talk about 1995 music, Blur, without talking about the impact Oasis had on them. It's because you can't ignore it. And I did this in when we talked about What's the Story, Morning Glory. They were intertwined for at least the first 2/3 of 1995.
They were, yeah. And obviously, you did have Definitely Maybe in 94.
Yeah.
Which, obviously, Blur had swept it aside at the Brit Awards. And the Brit Awards used to be the big yardstick, didn't it? That was it. It was all geared up to, you might win the chart battle and you might get win the critics over. But it comes down to the Brit Awards were like the cup final, if you like. It's the Super Bowl.
For the American listeners, the Brit Awards are the UK equivalent of the Grammys.
Yeah.
And it was it wasn't just an award ceremony, it was a party.
Oh, and it was huge.
So they take the Royal Albert Hall, I think it was. No, Earl's Court, excuse me.
Earl's Court.
They take Earl's Court, which is like a 20,000 seat arena, and set it up as a banquet. Mm-hmm. And then invite all these musicians, unlimited champagne, unlimited alcohol, God knows what drugs. And then had Chris Evans up there for the the hosting. you know, and it was a great time, and you could tell something was a little bit up with Blue, right? And what I mean by that is Damon was I won't say uncomfortable, but he was getting more and more withdrawn, and I think that was to do more and more with his heroin addiction than anything else.
Yeah, I didn't know that until a couple of years ago. I had no idea that was going on with him.
Yeah, and he kept not he kept that quiet because you're not going to openly talk about your addiction, but I mean it was very, very well, for lack of a better term, hidden. But now looking back, you can definitely see, you know, the signs that was like he was becoming more withdrawn, more depressed. He was having panic attacks when, you know, he would go out on before he'd go out on stage. You know,
he was. I think he was on Prozac for a while. I think. And I think he'd obviously had this ongoing relationship with Justin Frischman, who had previously been with Brett Anderson, and one of the things that comes out in one of the songs, which we might talk about later on The Great Escape, is that they never saw each other. So she was obviously with Elastica and doing their thing, and they were just having this life where one was coming and the other one was going and stuff like that. So I think that was getting him down, and people were starting to. I think the way things were changing, basically, and you know nobody likes change, but it was inevitable consequence of the fame that Parklife brought them, I guess. Yeah,
and we'll get to the aftermath, because the aftermath of this album is just as fascinating as the album itself. Okay, so we're gonna go into track by track, and we're gonna start with going through them in order. I'm gonna start with Stereotypes. Now, you said that was the thing that hooked you.
Yeah, that was the guitar riff at the entrance. That caught me straight away, and it was like, wow. And I was probably a little bit young to appreciate the lyrics. That was maybe, I think I turned 12. I'd turned 12 by the time I listened to it. So yeah, so obviously it's about swingers and various other things that go on in the suburbs, I guess. And
he has a very, very fascination with that, because like on Modern Life is Rubbish, the track Villa Rosie implies a whole lot of stuff that Stereotypes implies.
Yeah.
You know? So it's like he's a little too fascinated by that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, maybe him and Brett, you never know.
You never know.
What was the crossover? We don't know. But I think with Stereotypes, it was that guitar just kind of, it kicks the album off nicely.
Yeah.
And the song is quite an upbeat song to take you into the songs that follow. But obviously, that was the first indication that he was writing about suburban life, what goes on in suburban life rather than what goes on in younger city life, I guess. But,
yeah. And, you know, it got number 7 in the charts. That was pretty average for Blue back then.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, Parklife hit number 5, and everything else was kind of within that 5 to 12 range of, you know, where it would end up in the charts. So, you know. But this came out in 96, so, I mean, you know, this was after the Help incident, which we'll go into here in a little bit. And and that's another reason why this album fascinates me as well, you know. But I like the organ. I really did. Showed maturity from Parklife and showed that the album is going to be a little bit more grown up. Because Parklife was a little silly, but not in a, you know.
Yeah, I get. Yeah, it was a bit more. It was a bit darker than Parklife.
Yes.
But yeah, I agree. The use of the organ, which is quite, which comes in again in Country House, where he sings that kind of bit by himself with the organ blaring behind him. But yeah, they did use that quite well on this album. An instrument that I play myself, so. Yeah, and it was. I'd first heard that sound before I heard The Great Escape. I'd heard it on Like a Rolling Stone, so I was obsessed with that organ sound in rock music. So yeah, they used it quite a lot throughout this album.
Yes, they did. And we'll go into Country House here in a minute, and it tells the story of a man who's trying to escape the city for the country, reflecting the band's own desire to escape the pressures of fame. Yeah, I can see that. And it was done in kind of an upbeat, cheeky kind of...
Yeah. And they kind of did what they did with Parklife, where they did it in an upbeat, cheeky way, even though it was kind of, you know, a negative, if you like. I mean, I think, wasn't there somebody they were very close with who kind of moved away? See, when you're younger in bands and you're all living in, you know, if you're living with each other, living in each other's pockets, you're living in an apartment, 4 of you, that's a massive boost for the creative process. When people start to move away and start to move, all right, it's not away, it's probably out in the suburbs, but it probably takes half an hour, 45 minutes to get there and stuff like that. That's when kind of the creative process starts to slow down, because you're not in each other's pockets. You're not there at the drop of a hat. Ideas for songs and things like that. And I think that's reflective throughout this album, is that this album was written very rushed. It was written in the studio. It was like, right, go and follow that. And they had to go. And they did it on a kind of very professional, methodical, meticulous. I think they banned alcohol throughout the entirety of the album. So I think that's kind of reflective in the songs, in that it was very meticulous in the way they did it. But it's also coming out in the lyrics, is that, you know, people, they'd come to that point where they'd had the fame of Parklife. They've obviously got money. And when people get money, what do? They buy a big house and go and live out in the sticks.
Well, see, that was the thing too, right? This became Blue's entry in what would become the Battle of Britpop, right? Mm-hmm. The most overhyped, and I'm saying this as a big Oasis fan, the most overhyped, underwhelming music battle in music history.
It was if you'd have said pick the two worst singles and pit them against each other, it would have been those two. Definitely. You could have had. I mean, there's all sorts of stories around moving release dates, and there was a talk that Blur moved their release date to match it and stuff like that. But then it was probably done behind the scenes.
It's the record label, not the
Blur didn't. Oasis were competitive, but Blur didn't really strike me as kind of wanting to fight anyone. But I think if you know, you could have gone Parklife, you could have gone, I don't know, Supersonic against Parklife or Girls and Boys.
Noel Gallagher said that this would have been better if it was Girls and Boys versus cigarettes and alcohol.
There you go. Yeah,
you know and he's right, because roll with it. Look, I'm a big Oasis fan. Listen to every single one of the songs, every single song that's Oasis adjacent. You know, and Roll With It is not in my top 75 Oasis songs. It is a dreadful song.
It's probably the worst single they ever released,
and I'm including All Around the World with that.
Yeah, and it's many key changes. So they kind of, I think that this had been brewing for a while, and I think the record label had just kind of thought, we don't care what we pit against, you know, each other. Just do it. Just find whatever song you're going to release and just do it. I don't know why Oasis released Roll With It, but anyway.
They had much better songs on the album they could have released.
They did, yeah.
And they made videos to them as well. That's the other thing. Because, like, over here, Oasis' biggest hit is Champagne Supernova. Well, you had to have a video to that, because, you know, it's an American market. MTV is still MTV at this point.
Absolutely.
You know? So, but Roll With It was just a dreadful song. I'll say it to my dying day. You know,
and Country House was nowhere near the best song on that album.
Country House, I don't think was the best song on that. No, not even. No, I mean, Graham Coxon hates it. He tried to jump out of a window after a Top of the Pops performance.
That bad.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and a lot of people saying it's a dig at Oasis as well. And I'm like, they wouldn't have cared about Oasis at that point. They respected each other at that point. I think it was the Battle of Britpop, and Noel being off his head on cocaine, being asked constantly about Blur, that led to some of the comments, and, you know, and the Help incident didn't help either. Which, again, we'll talk about the Help incident in a little bit. But
I just think the record. I'm trying to second guess what the record labels were thinking. I'm just thinking, just whatever they're releasing, just do it. Whatever they're releasing. If they were obviously going to release it roughly around the same time. Yeah. I think it was going to be within 2 weeks, and then it got moved by Blur's management, I think.
Yeah.
So for it to come out the same week, and it could have been anything, and they just wanted to hype it up. And to be fair, they probably made it. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Would Country House be probably the fastest selling single, I'd imagine?
Yeah, I think the final score was like 380 to 340,000.
Right.
Sold.
Probably up there with their fastest selling singles.
Well, here's the other thing too, right? Damon Albarn expressed that he has mixed feelings about this song. You know, he says it's great for the commercial stuff, it got us noticed, but it's an objectively bad song, and it is an objectively bad song. It's not good. And it fueled the stereotypes, because we talked about Suede, we talked about Pulp, we talked about Oasis. those guys were certifiable. You could point on a map to their hometown, their the area town they grew up in, and everything like that. And people were whispering at the time, and it's not true because I've seen documentaries and stuff like that. But they whispering things like, "Well, Blur, this middle class, wannabe, working class, cheeky chappy sort of band, Cockney," and they're not Cockneys; they're from Essex, right?
Yeah, and I think they all went to art school as well, didn't they? They met each other in art school.
Yeah,
kind of gives you the rightly or wrongly the perception that they're this pretentious guys versus but that's what made this whole rivalry perfect. You've got the pretentious art school guys who learned music properly and were very, very good at their musicians,
yes,
versus Oasis who just got their mate in to play bass,
yeah,
and he couldn't play bass, so they did the recordings for him and stuff like that, where and we all formed bands like that back in the day. I mean, when I first formed bands, none of us could play the instruments properly.
No.
But that was the beauty. That was the fun of it, and that was the adventure. Whereas Blur had come from the art school scene and the art college scene, so they were sort of two very different groups of people, really.
Yeah. Well, it's done now. Everybody except Liam Gallagher is now friends with each other. The Oasis Blur rivalry type deal. Because they've Noel Gallagher and Damon Albarn have collaborated on Gorillaz tracks and even Damon's solo work, So there's kind of a happy ending with that. Everybody kind of grew up and got along with each other.
Yeah,
So
I think Liam. Yeah, I think Liam. Noel said that Liam is what was the thing about the soup? He was
he's an angry man. He's a man with a fork in a bowl full of soup.
A bowl full of soup. Yeah. I think it doesn't matter if it's Damon or whoever else. If
you don't like him, he don't like you.
No.
So we move on to the next track, Best Days. Now,
my favorite song on the album, by the way.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I'll be completely honest. This one, it doesn't bore me, but it doesn't do anything for me. It's really down. It's very, very melancholic. And, I just never got this one. Because you're coming off Stereotypes, which is high energy. Country House, which, alright, fair enough, is not a great song, but they try and make it fun. And then Best Days comes on, and it's a complete 180.
I think...
And slows everything completely down.
I think two things. It could have been positioned better in the album. It could have been fifth, maybe. I think a lot of different... You could put the Universal last.
Yeah.
I think. As it does actually, if you buy it on tape, it is the last song on the first side.
There you go.
Because I had it on tape, but I think you could have put it. You could have put it as a Champagne Supernova, kind of, maybe extended it a little bit. I think the album's too long. I think it's three or four songs too long. It's 15 tracks on that album.
Yeah.
I think it was like 10 on Morning Glory, 11 if you count the kind of.
If you count the two middle bits, there's 12.
Oh, is there? Right.
13 if you include Born Ends Bank Holiday, which was on the vinyl pressing. Yeah.
But I think the album's too long. But I think for me, this is my favourite tune on the album. I just think if you'd have positioned it better, a lot of people may think differently of it. But
so what makes it your favourite?
I don't know. I think it's. I come back to it a lot when I'm kind of reminiscing about my youth, I guess.
Okay.
And we're all grown up now. We're married with kids, and we've got 9 to 5s, and we've got this, that, and the other. And sometimes, I'm thanks to the various social media platforms, I'm still in touch with people from back then, and we talk about, we're talking now, and we talk about the good old days and things like that. And I know it's. I think it's about. Again, it's written about characters, and I think it's about a couple going on that, and then getting to the point where they've got a house and kids, and losing that kind of spark and stuff. But I kind of relate to it through the best days of my life, which is for everybody's their youth, really. Yeah,
I can go with that. I mean, it's not like I said, it's not a bad song, but it just because of its position and the stripped back nature of it, it just seems out of place.
Yeah, it is. It's a couple of songs later. You could have built into it, I guess, a bit more rather than plonking it straight after two stonking openers.
Yeah, and I think that's always been certain bands' downfall is they haven't been able to track list properly.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, I love REM. I think they're a really, really good band. They're one of the greatest bands that's ever existed in America, right? One of the greatest American bands of all time.
Mm-hmm.
But especially them early days, they couldn't get the track listings right. Even
Yeah.
even going as far as Automatic for the People, they should have ended it on Night Swimming and they added another song. Well, you fast forward until they did, I think it was Reveal, and they did I'll Take the Rain. That should have been the natural closer. Oh, look, here's Beach Ball. You know?
Yeah.
So I think Blue had that same problem. I mean, we discussed it with Park Life that they should have ended
Yeah.
on This Is a Law when
Oh,
they
yeah.
added one more song. So would you say that would be Damon's weakness?
Yeah, I mean,
Or at least in these days.
you don't know whose decision, I guess, that was, and to put it on. I mean, this is back in the day when albums were albums. Albums now are just, a collection of songs that people write. We don't consume music. I was talking to Rich Taylor actually yesterday about this, and we don't consume music in the same way we used to. So the albums is dying as a concept, and concept albums as well, and are no longer kind of they're no longer done basically. And I think when you do write a concept album or produce a concept album, track listing is important. So it could have been further down, but maybe it would have people have a different view of it then. But I think, yeah, I love Devin Albarn, so I'm gonna forgive him for that.
Well, my favorite song on the album, aside from the Universal, is Up Next, Charmless Man. I love this song. I think that the introduction to it, brilliant. The little break with the piano, brilliant. It's a Blue song. It couldn't be done by anybody else. Do
you know that I'm sure this is about Brett Anderson.
Probably.
I've heard that it's about Brett Anderson when he first met Brett Anderson.
I mean, they never got along.
No, I mean, I guess when you start going out with his ex-girlfriend, I think there may have been overlap. I'm not sure.
Well, the thing about the song, it's really it's a fun song, right? It's a Blue song. It's a fun song. The video to it, really, really good music video and everything like that. It's satirical. Mm-hmm. It's combining pop sensibilities with social critique. That was classic Blue. Mm-hmm. But it didn't kind of shake the middle class roots theory that they might be, because look, the market in 1994 through 1997, you were trying to get working class men and women, right? That's all it was. You were trying to get the working class kids involved. How many working class kids were airing family shares and know the difference between wines and
they weren't mixing with the type of people who know the difference between their claret and their Beaujolais, were they?
Exactly.
And I think that there's possibly a London thing. Even as a working class person, this is the thing. We come from a really small town, and a lot of these people that he writes about, we never really came into contact with these people.
No,
they were in a far off city, that we couldn't really relate to that much.
And I guess because Essex's proximity to London, he had a lot more. London
by then they were living there as well. So
yeah.
By the time they got the Great Escape, so I think. I mean, I've heard it's about Brett Anderson. I don't know if Brett Anderson knows the difference between his claret and his Beaujolais. I don't know his background either. But it is it's another character song. They're all character songs on those three albums really, and it's it's about like you say that they're singing about these people as if they themselves are these working class guys, and they're those people who we call they're charmless. But in reality, did they come from that background? Possibly. But it's I have heard it's about Brett Anderson. But
nice.
That's true.
Nice. The next track is a track called Fade Away. A little bit of reggae, which is really, really weird coming from Blue. Not just coming from Blue, but coming from a British band in general.
I think this is one. This is one of the ones that could have been surplus to requirements on this album. I think the album was 3 songs, maybe too long, and I think this kind of starts into. I know that the Universal comes after this, but after the Universal, particularly the second side of the album, there is these kind of, it's like here comes another character and here comes another character, and I think that it was a bit. This is one of the ones that I think could have probably been dropped by the band or the record label.
Yeah, I think so too. It's not. There are three songs that I think, if you take them off the album sounds more concise and coherent. We've talked about two of them. You know, for me, like I said, I know you said Best Days is your favorite song on the album. I think if they took that off, they took Fade Away off, nobody would. People might miss Best Days, but they're not going to miss Fade Away.
No. And there was a few on the second side that we'll come to as well that could have gone.
But
Top Man being another one.
We're going to talk about Top Man here in a minute. And yeah, this is we'll talk about it now. We'll jump ahead. I mean, okay, they tried something different.
They did, but there's a lot of Tracy Jacks in this.
Yeah,
quite a lot of that. The TOPMAN and then the answer to it is a bit like the Tracy Jacks format of writing lyrics, I guess. But this is another one for me that kind of could have been scrubbed. It
should have been scrubbed, in my opinion, because it's like Country House. It's trying to be something, but it's not doing it very good. So, like, you know, the electronic elements, great. They sound like they're coming from a Casio keyboard. Now, knowing what we know now about Clint Eastwood, the song, and how he recorded it with the he had an Omni recorder and he used the preset to make the drum beat. Okay, fair enough. We now have an insight in how he would write.
But that's punk. That's proper punk, isn't it?
But it's just, you know, it's comments on masculinity and societal expectations placed on men. Great. Why we have Arabian music in the background talking about a camel? You know, I mean, you get rid of that. I don't think anybody misses it.
I don't know if it's got anything to do with I don't know if you have this in the States, but the popular high street boutique that is Top Man.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's got any link to that or anything like that. But that and Fade Away could have gone for me, I think.
Yeah, definitely. But the best track on the album is up next, in my opinion. Okay, let me rephrase that. The best composed, the best arranged.
It's the best track on the album, yeah. Okay. It's not necessarily my personal favourite. And Best Days is for reasons around, I don't know, I just listen to it when I'm feeling melancholy and stuff like that.
Same here.
And I'm reminiscing, but this is the best track. His range from vocally, the composition, the strings and stuff like that. This could have been bigger, you know. It could have been a 6-7 minute Champagne Supernova last song on the album, triumphant kind of ending. But obviously it's shot to fame since because it's all over adverts and things.
Yeah. That's where I first heard it, because like I said, I was leeching off my sister's record collection back in the day. So, you know, my sister and my cousins, they'd have all the newest albums and stuff like that, and they weren't Blue fans. So I first heard the Universal, not on Top of the Pops, but on some Citroen advert.
Yeah.
And when I heard it was Blue, when I saw the video to it, it's like, oh, you know. I mean, the video, I'm a big Clockwork Orange fan. I love the video.
I was going to say, it's the Droogs, aren't they, in the video?
Yeah. And the one of the best tributes to the milk bar in pop culture. There's two of them. There's the scene from Trainspotting when they're in the you know, just before he gets Diane, and then there's this one. You know, came out the second single off the album, got to number 5.
Mm-hmm. It's probably a crime that it didn't get a little bit higher.
No,
to be honest.
absolutely. But I think it was released around about the same time that like a Robbie Williams song and Michael Jackson song and Wonderwall.
Was it around the same time, was it?
Yes. And Common People.
Wonderwall never got the number 1 either.
No, that was held off by Earth Song. So you so around about this time you've got Wonderwall, Common People, Earth Song, and I think not Angels, but the one that he released before Angels. And
when did he leave Take That?
94. It was After All Before I Die. I know that much. Which is
I can't
another
remember.
song that is dreadful.
Yeah.
But I actually like that song, even though I know it's bad. So,
But yeah, Universal was a phenomenal tune. Phenomenal tune. And it doesn't feel like it sits on the album very well. Like,
no.
it feels like it's. I don't know. It feels like it could have been on a later album that sort of where they brought in a lot more strings and tried to be a kind of bigger sound, create a bigger sound.
Well, this song reminds me of This Is a Low, in the sense that it is a really, really good song. It's really, really coherent. It's really, really tight. It's just in the wrong place on the album.
Yeah, it was the ending of the first side on the tape.
Like I said, I love this song. I really do. A lot of people, some critics thought, and we'll go into to why here in a minute, because I'll bring this up again. Some critics thought it was a little overindulgent. Yeah, I can see that, but when you told you're the songwriter of a generation, and you've just come off the back of the Brit Awards sweeping up, who's going to tell you to not indulge yourself?
Exactly. Yeah.
So, the next song is a song that I don't get at all.
What is the next?
The next song is Mr. Robinson's Quango.
Mr. Robinson's Quango, yeah.
Yeah.
It's about politics. It's a politician, isn't it?
For those who don't know, a Quango refers to a quasi-autonomous non-governmental organisation, often criticised for bureaucracy and inefficiency. Songs satire these entities and individuals associated with them. I'm 41 years old. When I was doing the research for this a couple of weeks ago, that's the first time I ever heard what it meant.
We heard a lot about Quangos back in about 2010 in this country when the Tories came in and promised to get rid of them all. But I'd never heard of them back in the day. There's obviously a lot of reference to. I think there is references to the right wing in the UK, and I think the right wing back then was different to what we think about the right wing back now. The right wing, it wasn't. It was more of a class thing in this country. The right wing was seen as the upper class.
Yes,
and it obviously talks about Masonry, Freemasonry, and that kind of. It's a song about sort of right-wing Tory politicians who are probably in these organisations to get, for themselves, to get what they can out of them. A lot of these Quangos were probably set up for those reasons. They were just set up to give someone a job, and I think that it's obviously a play on them. It's probably something you needed to be a little bit older, because we didn't swallow politics like we did back then. We just had the 6 o'clock news, and that was it.
Yeah.
So it the lyrics kind of went over our heads when we were that young, but.
I mean, and like I said, up until a few years ago, it still went over my head. It was seen again. It was seen as another middle class. Who talks about what working class men talks about politics in their art directly. There's a lot of indirect. There's a lot of indirect talk about it. But
it's just another example of his kind of character. He was looking at working class people in. Park life. He was looking at things like bank holiday, how us Brits like to go on a bank holiday, or as you said earlier on, more the English kind of culture of bank holidays around drinking and then going back to work on Monday morning. In this album, they'd started to talk about the middle class and the upper class, and the characters were all kind of from that area. And I guess this one's a kind of a little stab at Tory politicians, I guess.
And every time you take a stab at a Tory, take a stab at a Tory, people. Next song on the album is He Thought of Cars. And this is about isolation and disconnection and exploring the emptiness that can accompany materialism in modern life. I like this song. I do.
I agree. Now this sits a lot better on the album. This wasn't. I think Mr. Robinson's Quango and Fade Away, and those were the kind of songs where you're thinking, "Oh God, another semi-upbeat story about a guy that we don't like." But whereas this was different, and it brought it down a little bit. So I think this was well placed as well. Actually, on the album.
I mean, it's one of the best reviewed songs on the album. It might be like top 3 or 4. I don't think it's as good as the Universal, obviously. I don't think it's as good as Charmless Man. But it's, Blur always did better when they took a step back and slowed it down.
Yeah.
They did their fun, their fun cheeky chappy songs, right? And Park Life and Girls and Boys aside, you look at Park Life, some of the best songs on there, To the End, Bad Head,
This is a low.
This is a low. So this is the same thing. They slow it down, be more open about how they feel, and bang, you got a great song in your hands.
Yeah.
So I mean, the lyrics paint a vivid picture of disillusionment and the search for meaningful beyond superficial desires, resonating with listeners who have experienced similar sentiments. I mean, we've all wanted to just get in a car and drive off somewhere.
It's escapism.
Yes, it's the great escapism.
It is the great escapism.
But the next track on the album, It Could Be You, right? That inspiration came from the lottery.
Yeah, so remember the lottery slogan.
Yes.
Well, there's another element in the Universal of that where end of the second section of the song, the second verse. Tomorrow's your lucky day. Well, here's your luck. I think there was an element of taking a satirical look at those people, because we had obviously the national lottery came big in the 90s, and I think a lot of working class people, or there was a perception anyway, that they would kind of live week to week to try and win the thing, and change their lives in a big way, and so it was a kind of a satirical look at that, really. Which really, going back to the class thing, doesn't really help their cause, because they're kind of mocking people who, live with that. Just that the only hope is I'll win a life-changing amount of money and then all my troubles will be over, type thing.
Yeah.
Whereas in reality, that's kind of nothing to laugh about, I guess.
No, it's not. It's not. And
yeah, but it does change. But I can't imagine, some people do the lottery and you kind of think, I'll do it for a bit of fun and I'll put my pound in every week and it's a bit of a laugh and that's it. There was obviously this perception at the time within the UK that people literally, these were the people who used to go down into the slot machines and play stuff like that. I suppose you have them in the States with like Vegas. People who go to Vegas and think, I'm going to change my life, type thing.
I play the lottery over here once every 6 months or so, and the only reason I play it is the jackpot gets up to like 800 million.
Jesus.
I mean, at that point, it's just like, you know what? It's $2. You might as well. You know.
How is that? Is that like a state lottery?
Non-national.
I was going to say, Jesus.
After Uncle Sam gets their cut, depending on how you divvy it up, 800 million becomes like about 400 million.
So it's taxed?
Yeah. Oh, everything's taxed over here.
It's not in this country.
No, everything's taxed over here. Like everything is taxed. Like
you don't associate Americans with taxing, because obviously you pay low taxes, don't you?
I wish. But no, it's it was the last song recorded in the album, and I think you could tell that there was some kind of release in this one. It was more relaxed, because everything else seems tense, whereas this one seems nice and relaxed. And then it was over. We're going on tour. We're going to release some songs, and that was it. Give it to Stephen Street to mix, and call it good.
Yeah.
So, the funniest track on the album is up next, Ernal Singh, featuring the Right Honourable Ken Livingstone.
Yeah, this is Ken Livingstone, isn't it? Yeah. And I don't know if Damon told him, I'm looking for someone with a horrendously boring, drony voice to do this, or whether he said, Ken, do you know what? You'd be perfect for this, and didn't tell him why. Right.
Well, here it is. As Stephen Street said in The Enemy in 2021, it was my idea to get him in because I'm not a huge fan of his. We needed somebody with a really nasal, boring voice through the commentary, and I suggested him. He thought he was the bee's knees, and we were fans. We weren't at all. I couldn't stand him, and my preconceptions were confirmed when he insulted the pastel jumper I was wearing that day. But his voice definitely suited that song.
So basically, what I just said was correct. They didn't tell him, right,
No.
Ken, you're really boring. We'd love you to be boring on our album. They basically just said, come in and have a chat. Read this out and we'll put some music to it.
They wanted to get him in for the last album.
Did they?
Yes. The instrumental on Parklife, which I can't remember the name of. It's not Lot 105. It's the other one in the middle of the album. They were gonna do a poem over the top of it, and they wanted to use either Phil Daniels or Ken Livingstone to do it. And then they wrote Parklife to give Phil Daniels, and they scrapped the idea.
Yeah, but that's two very different voices, because Phil Daniels is, quite a lively, cheeky cockney, and Ken Livingstone just drones on and on and on about, the 80s strikes and stuff.
Yeah.
But,
I think Ken Livingstone's finest hour was him being on Have I Got News For You after the Angus Deaton scandal broke. And he was actually quite funny because everybody was ripping into Angus Deaton about his affair that weekend. But this could go. I mean, it could. Yeah. But I think they needed it to break up.
It's different. Yeah, it's different, and it's actually something to laugh about, and it's quite amusing actually. Whereas I think things like Fade Away and stuff, it's like they're not good, they're not funny, they're not like
they're just there.
Yeah, they're just there. Whereas I think this is, it's not a critically acclaimed masterpiece of a song, but it's not necessarily taking up too much space, and it's quite amusing, and it's got a story behind it, I guess. So
because we all know an Ernal Sim.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do.
So we got 4 more tracks to go. There's Global On, which is a song characterized by its fast tempo and energy, reflecting the restless nature of modern consumer culture. I can't listen to this song properly because my version of the CD skipped.
Right. Okay.
And when I ripped it to my computer, because I refuse to use Spotify. I've still got like my Winamp.
I was going to say, we have like streaming. And stuff.
Yeah, it's still so it's like it starts off and it's still got the clicking sound that you get on a CD as it was trying to skip because I used like a exact copier. No, I won't use Spotify. I try not to use Spotify and I try not to use AI. I don't know why, but it's just like I'll use AI for things like to help me out with this kind of stuff, with the research and stuff. So
I actually went back through the album earlier on, and you can listen to it on YouTube.
Yeah,
funny. But I think again, this is another one that I know it's about globalism and kind of that was the way we were kind of heading at the time in the 90s. This was kind of the start of the, we come out of the 80s where we shut all the mines because we got coal cheaper from abroad, and we were really reaching out and now becoming a global Britain. And I think, but again, I don't know what it adds. I don't know. It's not one. It's one I skip.
Yeah, it's very, very skippable. It's Bank Holiday's little cousin. I like a better term. It's trying to be that kind of style, but the BPM is down and it's not as aggressive.
Yeah.
So that was their attempt to do it. I guess it was their attempt to do another pop scene.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
Next track is Dan Abnormal, which is Damon Albarn in an anagram.
It's an anagram of Damon Albarn, isn't it?
Yes. So it's basically about him.
Yeah, it's autobiographical. I think that's the first time on the album he'd written about every other conceivable character by this point. So he thought, who else can I write about? I'll just write about myself.
And it's a good song, It really
It's
is.
not bad.
It fits the album pretty well, and it explores the concept of identity and the pressures of fame, and that's his. He's always never felt comfortable in the spotlight.
No, and I think the thing is, it was a funny one because after they did Modern Life and then they were told, look, write commercial success or we drop you. It's like they chose to take that path.
Yeah.
Rather than think, well, we'll go back to an indie label and we'll write what we want to write. Stuff like what they wrote on Modern Life, because they didn't like Leisure either.
No.
They were trying to. I think they were pushed into trying to be a bit kind of shoegazy.
Yeah.
I guess. And that wasn't their thing. And Modern Life was kind of them writing what they wanted to write. They were then told it wasn't commercial enough, so they had the choice then. Do you just say, appeal to the record label and do what you want, or do you think, right, well, we'll go commercial? And they obviously did. And I think, he paid the price in a way because, as you said, he then battled with addiction, and part of that reason was the pressures of fame, and he was thrust into the spotlight, and Noel Gallagher wanted to kill him, and
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, and he sort of
I didn't sign up for this. I signed up to write music and sing songs. I didn't sign up for the pressures of fame. So, yeah. I can see that. Next track is Entertain Me. Somebody called this Kraftwerk meets disco.
I like this song, actually.
It's that bass line.
Yeah, it's the bass line, the drums, the sound that they use, that they put on the drums, a very kind of metallic-y, kind of, not Metallica, metallic-y. The snare drum sounds like a kind of...
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it had a metal skin on it or something like that. I do like this song.
I like it too, and it's full of energy. That bass line is really catchy. That's one thing that, like, There's No Other Way and Girls and Boys.
Girls and Boys, the bass line's amazing.
Yeah, it's the bass line and the drum beat that made those songs, and that's what made this song. I think this should have been released as a single.
Yeah, I agree.
And you swap this with the Universal, say. So you push Universal in this position on the album, and you completely get rid of the next track, which we'll go over here in a second. But I like the song. It's really, really good. It's a typical Blur song in the sense of, it couldn't have been made by anybody else. But it's I love it. I love it.
I do like the song. Yeah, and I think this was what you said there about Alex James, and I think that's the difference for me. Why I preferred Blur to Oasis was the musicianship, the bass being the heartbeat of any band, really, and they had a proper bassist who could really play that thing. Whereas Oasis kind of, if you listen to an Oasis track prior to
Seven Children of Giants,
you can't hear the thing.
No, well, that's there's a saying in the bass community about the bass player Jaco, and because there's a debate going on: is a 6-string or a 5-string bass guitar a bass guitar? And somebody will say, well, Jaco only needed 4 strings. Right? That's the thing. Well, somebody asked me about that. I said, well, Gwigsy only needed 1. So...
yeah, and a plectrum. And one finger. Just kind of moved his finger up and down there.
Hey, it worked up to a point.
Yeah, but the guy made a lot of money.
He did, and then he decided to go and live out the rest of his days in anonymity.
We met him.
Really?
Yeah, in Swansea, believe it or not.
Nice.
He'd got himself a gig just after he left Oasis, just before when they were writing Shoulders of Giants. He was doing DJing, and we'd heard that he was going to be in Escape in Swansea.
Nice.
And he came in, and he was backstage, and we could sort of see him, and we were shouting to him and kind of chatting to him and stuff like that. And then about that, there was an argument over money, and he never did a single song, and he stormed off. So
dang. Oh, it wasn't one of the 6 things that's important to him.
No.
So it was cricket, Doctor Who, football, Man City, and pot noodle before music. So
apparently he was a bigger cricket fan than he was football. Apparently.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. So I love Gwigsy. He's so simplistic. When they did definitely maybe DVD 10-year anniversary, he wrote a letter and said, "I'm not going to be on camera, but if you need anything else from me, please let me know, Paul." And that was shown in an outtake. And then they did the obligatory Gwigsy's awesome. We loved him. Shame he's, whatever. He was so recluse in wanting to be recluse that he got sick just about the same time the Wonderwall video got made.
Yeah.
So that's not Gwigsy in the Wonderwall video.
And no, it's not, is it?
It's Scott McCloud.
Yeah.
And then he came back for the Donald Beckenanger video around about that time. So he ducked out of their most famous video and still anonymous.
That's right.
So, God bless him for that. The final track on the album, Gyoko and Hiro, song initially called Japanese Workers. This one kind of thematically reminds me more of like Nicky Y, Manic Street Preachers. In the sense that it's a political hot topic, but it's a very niche political hot topic. And
there's obviously the line in there around Justine, which I think I said earlier about I never see you and we're never together. So I think there was an element of him writing little bits of his own life into these characters.
Yes.
But it's not. I wouldn't necessarily take it off the album. I just wouldn't have it as the last song.
No, it's not a closer.
It limps over the line, doesn't it? The album by this point.
Well, that's the thing, right? That's what we're going to go into. We're going to go into the reception of the album real quick, then we'll wrap it up. Because when this was released, right, the original reaction was, this is the greatest album that's ever been released. It's definitely the best album of the 90s, but it could be up there with some of the greatest of all time, right? And then the help incident happened. Now, do you know what the help incident is?
No.
Okay.
I feel like I should.
The album Help. You know what the War Child album?
Yeah.
Okay. It was, the concept of it was that music should be consumed as it's finished. So they got a whole bunch of guys in Abbey Road on Monday to record like 15, 20 songs. They mixed it on a Tuesday, and they printed it for sale on Wednesday. And the album was released September 9th, 1995. Right?
Which is the same day.
Yes. Same day that this was released. Now, Blur did participate in the recording. I said in the Park Live episode they didn't, but they actually did participate. They did Eine Kleine Lift Music, a cover of some song, right? It was their record label that objected to the classification of the album. The album was supposed to be a regular LP, so it would be eligible for chart thing, and Food Records demanded that it be classified as a compilation because it would damage Blur's shot at getting the number one record.
Right.
So when the organization that charts these things said no, this is not a compilation album. This is charity album. It goes as normal. It alienated the press because they just won the Battle of Britpop, right? They were on top of the world. Mm-hmm. They swept the Brit Awards, and then all of a sudden, everybody was talking crap about them. This is why. So, The Great Escape, NME and Q re-reviewed the album and went from it being the album of the century to being like a 4 out of 10. So it was petty at best, and disingenuous at worst. And this is coming from NME. This is NME talking about Blur. I mean, good lord, NME was so far up Blur's ass at that time.
They were, yeah.
I
kind of had a different kind of idea of what happened with regards to why they changed their viewpoint, and it was very much seen in the Oasis album of that year, and also of Be Here Now, was that music critics don't have a clue what they're talking about.
No.
And they panned Morning Glory.
Oh yeah.
Panned it. And then it obviously exploded and became the biggest selling album of the decade.
Yeah.
Then Be Here Now comes out, and they were so terrified of getting it wrong again that they said that Be Here Now was a masterpiece. And now we know that, while some people will disagree, Be Here Now was pretty much a failure, really.
Yeah, I mean, I love Be Here Now. I'm not gonna lie, but there are a whole bunch of songs that are not complete, that overproduced, indulged, whatever you want to call it. And it was pretty bad. I mean, Noel Gallagher did a remix of "Do You Know What I Mean" about 5 years ago, and it sounds better, right? And I think it does, because it stripped back like 20 guitar layers that were exactly the same, and 15 bass tracks that were exactly the same, and retuned the drums. And oh yeah, we've got an orchestra in this track. Somehow we forgot to put in the mix, and here it. But overall, yeah, that album was a failure. I love it. It was one of the first albums I bought. It was kind of like...
It was a commercial success.
It was a commercial success. 8 million copies sold. That's pretty good. But consider Morning Glory sold 21 million copies in that time period and went on to sell 25.
I think it sold quicker in the first week, I think.
Yeah.
I remember queuing for it. I queued for Be Here Now. But I think that why the critics actually... My theory as to why, because I didn't know this story about Help, but why the critics actually glowed over The Great Escape was that it followed Park Life, and it was like, oh, this must be good because Blur are great, and with Morning Glory, well, we don't want to pan this again. We don't want to pan Be Here Now because we got it wrong last time, so let's just say it's good.
They don't, music critics don't know what they're talking about. No. Kelly Jones wrote Mr. Ryder about it. Because they had a critic on tour for 6 months with them on tour, and then wrote something along the lines of, "These guys are stupid. Their music's crap. You have just enough education to perform." That's where the title comes from.
Oh, is that where it comes from?
Yeah. So but at this time, Blur released the Universal, and Oasis and Pulp released Wonderwall Disco 2000, and they were seeing NME kind of stab Blur in the back by saying, well, this is what working class music sounds like. This is a little overindulgent, blah, blah, blah. And then they reread the album, like I said. The reviews were disingenuous at best, petty at worst, And then you mentioned earlier the Brit Awards thing, where Noel and Liam Gallagher just, So the whirlwind, Blur won nothing that year. And they went.
No, they didn't.
They went in the dog's house with the music press, won nothing, couldn't retort to anything. Like all the criticism that was coming their way, all the mocking that was coming their way. And that's what kind of led to Damon Albarn feeling stupid and confused. In Select magazine, Alex James says, after being the people's hero, Damon was the people's for a short period. Basically, he was a loser, and very publicly in that. Wow. And then Graham Coxon decided that he wasn't going to be around anymore. He hated Alex James for being a playboy. He wanted more creative control in the band.
He also had an alcohol problem.
He had an alcohol problem. And that's where the Nadir was a performance of Chalmers Main that they did for an Italy television station where only Damon Albarn and Dave Rowntree showed up.
Right.
So they replaced him with a roadie and a cardboard cutout.
Wow.
So so for anybody interested into why Blur went from being the bee's knees to nothing in the space of like 4 weeks, it's because of their label. Now they recovered with the Blur album.
They did very, very much so.
Yeah, so that's what this legacy left on. But I think, in my opinion, my original rating for this one, ironically, I've re-rated it, was going to be like a 5 out of 10. I've jumped that up to 6 out of 10 because I listened to it again yesterday, and I saw the strengths for the first time in a long time in the album.
I think there's enough that just pull it round, like Stereotypes, the Universal.
Yeah.
They just pull it back from being a pretty dour album, really.
Yeah.
As much as at the time I had no concept of anything because I'd just got The Great Escape and I hadn't heard Parklife. I did want to swap 2 songs off it, but that was my first kind of introduction to Blur, really. Was from cover to cover album. The other thing is that this was kind of seen as the death of Britpop.
Yeah.
And the last rites, I guess. This period, 1995.
This wasn't the nail in the Britpop coffin. That was Be Here Now.
Yeah,
and
I think so much good came after that.
Yeah,
like you can't say that Britpop ended in '95.
No,
I mean I know that they won't thank me for this, but I mean OK Computer came out in '97.
Yeah,
Urban Hymns came out in '97. Mosley Shoals came out in '96. So there were some great albums, probably some better albums that had come out in the early '90s that actually got released in the late '90s.
Yeah, I mean, I was a big fan of Goodwill Out. I thought that was fantastic.
Great,
I'm a big Travis fan. I named my son after Frank Healy, for crying out loud. I mean, I loved that first album they did. That was I forgot the name of it. No. Good Feeling, yeah. Even though the title track is not great, the rest of the album is really, really good, and it kind of gave both of their styles, of the rock style and the acoustic
I think it was
style.
better than The Man. I think it was better than The Man Who.
Yeah, easily.
And then, of course, we had our kind of own little mini Britpop type cultural movement in Wales then with, the Phonics coming out and the Manics releasing Everything Must Go in '96 and
Catatonia, Feeder, Super Furry Animals.
Yeah, so we kind of had that Britpop movement a little bit later on, but I wouldn't say this was in any way. I mean, no Britpop band will thank you for calling them Britpop, ironically, but I think that if you class it as that whole '90s movement, there was a lot came out after that so-called death, or
it was the mainstream death, the best, with everything. Even though Oasis and Blur were the leaders, and some consider Oasis and Blur the best bands of the era, you dig a little deeper and you found some really, really, really great music. Really, really great music.
A lot of bands are still going today. I've seen Shed 7 a couple of years ago.
Yeah, they did a 90s revival type deal.
Yeah,
with the Blue Tones, and the Blue Tones, another good act. Although Cast, love Cast. We said Ocean Cult, and even the comeback of Paul Weller.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, Paul Weller was to these people what the Beatles were to Paul Weller.
Yeah,
he was the accessible.
He's the Godfather, wasn't he, at the time?
He was the Modfather.
Modfather, yeah.
Yes. So, I think the reviews of this album are in the middle when it comes to, what was originally posted and what was re-reviewed. Because the review was Paddy, the original posting was Indulgent. So it's kind of there. It's kind of like between a 5 and a 7 out of 10 album.
Yeah, it's in the middle, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, as we mentioned, some of these songs in the opening half could have gone. The second half of the album is much better than the first. It's better paced. It's got the better songs, Universal aside. Yeah, they won the Battle of Britpop. But they lost the war. Because this album only sold 2 million copies. Whereas Morning Glory sold 22 million copies.
Gee, man. I didn't even realise there was that big a gap.
Yeah. I mean, it's incredible. It's incredible. I mean...
What did Parklife sell? Do you know?
Parklife, I think, got 5 million copies.
So that's not a lot.
But at the time, it was, it was phenomenal that a British band was selling more than 500,000.
It was, yeah.
So... I mean, here's a stat that I pulled out, right? Don't Look Back in Anger was released in February of 1996. Sold 3.6 million copies.
For a single. In the UK. That's more than the population of Wales.
That's right. So I think if the Battle of Britpop didn't happen, Blur would be seen as a bigger deal. They're seen as a huge deal, but I think if they hadn't if the manufactured rivalry hadn't been there, and they did their own thing, they'd be a much bigger deal. Because they wouldn't have got involved in certain, like the Help stuff and the fighting with Oasis and stuff like that, So.
And I think they've kind of, in terms of musically, they've gone far in terms of their critical and technical musical side, particularly Alban.
Yeah.
They've far exceeded what Oasis did into the 2000s when, considering Alban launched Gorillaz and then produced 2 great albums in 97, and then when was 13? Was that 99?
99, yeah.
Yeah, and that was a brilliant album.
That's a really good album. The only problem I have with 13 is Tender, and the only reason I have a problem with Tender is because it's 7 minutes long, and they're re-repeating the first verse at like 4 minutes 30 seconds.
Yeah, they do
cut it in half, But this was the last album in the Britpop style by Blur. They would release Blur in 97, which was stripped down with lo-fi. They wouldn't go back to pop music. They'd start working on different styles: punk, gospel, rock music, alternative, style of American alternative, and then, as you mentioned, Gorillaz. Blur did split up in 2003. 2005, excuse me, with Graham Coxon leaving in 2003 on the Think Tank album, which you can tell they desperately
needed a break.
They needed a break at that point, yeah.
Yeah.
They'd come back in mid-2010s, releasing The Magic Whip, and then 2023 releasing The Ballad of Darren. Both of those, I'll be completely honest, I've not listened to.
Neither have I.
I know Spotify exists. I'll probably go and listen to them at some point. And then they came back and they played a couple of big shows at Wembley Stadium a couple of years ago. But they appear to be finished now because they released that documentary Blur to the End, and basically they all said, this is it. And considering Noel Gallagher said this is it for the upcoming Oasis tour, well, I say upcoming, it's like 50 days away from now, but it's happened by the time we've released this episode.
It is, and I'll be there, I must confess.
Where are you going?
Cardiff.
Cardiff?
Yeah, midnight.
See, they're not doing any gigs around my way.
No.
If they'd have done Dallas or Houston, I'd have been there. Because I was supposed to go see High Flying Birds back in 23, and then we had really bad weather that knocked out power to the neighborhood, and we couldn't leave the kids here. Okay. But which is a shame because one of my wife's favorite bands is Garbage, and it was Garbage and Noel Gallagher doing a joint tour together.
Oh, really?
So yeah, it would have been a good night, and apparently the show was good. So yeah, but that is it for this episode. Well, I say this episode. That is it for this review. Paddy, it's good to have you on, man. You got an open invitation whenever I've got a subject that is worth getting you on for.
Oh, I'd love to come on again.
Nice one. We'll be back in a couple of minutes with updates on what we've got coming on with Right Here, Right Now, and the Skyrim playthrough. Back in a minute. Alright, a sincere thank you to Patrick Oliver for joining us today. He has an open invitation next time we talk about something awesomely Britishly musically, or whatever we want to talk about, really, because, you know, good guy to have on, he was a good guest. So I appreciate him taking the time out of his day. I apologize if there was any sound issues. Yeah, that just was unfortunately something that I couldn't fix. But, again, you know, it was a great interview, and I'm glad that he came on board, and I look forward to having another episode with him at some point in the near future. If you go to our YouTube page, you'll notice I've been doing the Skyrim videos as another ES5 gamer, and we've got episodes coming out this week on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. That's where we complete the Book of Love storyline, and we solve a royal crisis in the province of Hammerfell. How do we do that? Go check it out. Now, I know some of you are not thrilled about that because it's not a 90s thing, but I've reiterated that The Elder Scrolls came out in 1994, so it counts. Just like The Simpsons came out in 89, it counts. So I'm taking it, dang it. Next week, we start the spooky season here on the Because Maybe Network's 90s podcast. Yes, indeed. We start with, drumroll please, the 1994 classic gothic action comic book movie, The Crow. Yes, we're going to talk about The Crow next week. I'm joined by Sarah, and we go into the heartbreak and tragedy of making the movie, what the movie stood for, and so on and so forth. It'll be an interesting episode, needless to say, and I'm looking forward to going ahead and talking about that one, because I've only seen the movie about 2 or 3 times, so I'm going to have to watch it this week to, you know, to get into it. But, yeah, that's going to be it. That's really all I have. I don't really have much. You know, we're going into Halloween, like I said, so, you know, the episodes are going to be a little spooky or horror-related for the next couple of weeks. I'll tell you about the week after episode next week, which is going to be another fun one. But if you like what you see, go check out the Because Movie Network on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Podbean. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram for the latest news and what have you. And our website is not up to date, but it is under reconstruction right now. But that's got an archive full of everything that we've done up until season 10 of the 90s podcast and season 11 of the 90s Gamer. 90s Gamer is coming back soon. I'm working on it. That'll probably be something that happens in the new year. And also, I mentioned the Right Here, Right Now. Right Here, Right Now has been postponed just a little bit because we have some issues going on personally, and we don't have the time to sit down and you know, get in the mood to discuss some of the things that we want to discuss on it. So that's going to be coming up later on in the year, or maybe in the new year also, okay? And that is going to be it for this episode. I want to thank everybody for taking the time out of their day for listening. And like I said, you can catch us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Podbean every Sunday for the 90s podcast. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for another ES5 Gamer. And that is going to be it for this episode. So, take it easy, everybody. And I'll see you soon. Bye.